Bonjour, welcome to my channel where we look at French-Canadian genealogy, and today we're going to be concentrating on the website Généalogie Québec, on which I do most of my research for records and acts and all of that. So if you look here, I will give you the link in the description box, but basically this is a site, Généalogie Québec. We could go to the English page so that you can better understand if French is a little bit difficult for you. I want to state right away that this is not a free site. Généalogie Québec is a paying site. However, if you look at the subscription plans, there is one that I think you could start off with to try it out and see how it works and everything. Whoops, I just scrolled a little past it. So for a $7 Canadian, you get a 24-hour access, and you can download up to 75 images over that 24-hour period. With 75 images, you will have, that's 75 records basically that you could download to your desktop, and I personally keep everything on a separate drive, but you do you. As you see, the $7 Canadian for 24-hour access is a pretty good deal. There's also a monthly subscription once you're ready to go there, if you are, and all of that. Personally, I have the yearly one because I'm here all the time. However, I never reach the 1,200 images per week limit. Never, ever. But anyway, so these are the different plans. So I want to, state right away that I am not in any way sponsored by Généalogie Québec or in any way linked to them. I gain nothing from you subscribing or not to this website, but I strongly suggest it just because it's so valuable. There's so much resources. There's so many resources here, different search engines, and basically you can build your whole family tree of French-Canadian ancestors just from this site. Of course, this is not where I have a tree. I do not have a tree here, obviously. My tree is on ancestry.ca. Ancestry. That's up to you where you want to keep your tree. The first thing I would suggest you do is to go in the help section and basically read what's in here, to see what the website has to offer, what is Généalogie Québec, the user guide, and all of that. I will go to what is Généalogie Québec right away. So Généalogie Québec is a subscription-based research website regrouping all of the collection and tools developed by the Drouin Institute over the course of its existence. When you go to the help page, you are actually on the Drouin Institute site, and so because you see here it says return to Généalogie Québec, and so here you are on the blog of the Institut Drouin, and you will find many resources here as well. But let's return now to the Généalogie Québec. In the help section still, it says here establish your ancestry guide if you need a little more guidance as to how to establish ancestry from the start if you've never done it before. But I assume that you must have some genealogy background if you're already into your French-Canadian ancestors, although they could be quite close, but still this will give you an overview of how to proceed. What I can tell you from this, that is I think the most important information, is that this part here where we're telling you that the LAFRANCE will be your main tool to trace your lineages on the website. So it contains the majority of marriages, births, and deaths available on Généalogie Québec, and covers a period stretching from the beginnings, that's 1621, of the French colony to today. The process begins with finding a marriage that belongs to a couple of the lineage you are tracing, such as your parents or your grandparents. Let's say your grandparents, you know both their names and you know more or less where they might have come from. I would assume those are your French-Canadian ancestors, the ones, that's what we're concentrating on, right? And so with that information, knowing their names, you can search for their marriage record, and this will give you the names of their parents, and therefore you can go back generation after generation using that method. All right, so let's get into it. I will return to Généalogie Québec. I will log in and we will start with a little search just to show you a little bit how it works. So here we are. On this page, okay, I have already names written down here, but never mind that. You see that you have 4 tabs. The first one is for an individual search. You're looking for one individual. This would be maybe if you're looking for a birth certificate, a birth record, or a death record. This is where you would look for it. You have the couple tab where you would specifically, not exclusively, but specifically look for the marriages between 2 people and their children, the birth acts of their children. And then you have parishes where you could look by parish or by city for different places in Quebec, and with the help button here you see a map of all the parishes. This is useful when sometimes you think someone might have been, let's say, married in this parish but you didn't find them, so you can look at the map and see what are the parishes around there, because usually it's going to be one of them. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So today I'm going to concentrate on the couple tab, and I'm going to do a search. I'm going to look for my grandfather and my grandmother's marriage act. And so you see I have typed in Boutillier, which is my last name, and Alfred, it's his first name, the one I know that he was using. However, I know already, I've researched these acts before, and I know for a fact that he was sometimes using Albert. He was actually baptized Alfred Albert, or Albert Alfred Boutillier. So at times he was using both, sometimes just one, and not always the same one. So it's his choice, it's his name. So Guillemay is my grandmother. There's many different spelling for Guillemay. That's the one I know my grandmother used. And her first name I left out just in case that there might be, you know, the least, I could also leave that one field empty, but then there might be some other Boutillier Guillemay that would pop up. And so I tried to give at least one of the first names. Okay. Here at the bottom, you have a little checkbox for resemblance. Yes, I want this checked. And then search for more criteria. You can determine the time period. I won't. Although you could, because as you go back in time, sometimes over 3 generations, you might have the same, I don't know, François Boutillier, and then you want to limit your search to a certain time period so that you don't get the whole array of François Boutilliers. Then the role, I'll explain what the roles are, but you can have either, that's the role that's being played by the person in the act, and so they could be subject, and that would be typically for the marriage, father, mother for the birth of a child, and subject, spouse when one of them has died. So you have the person who's still alive and the spouse who has died, so a death record. All right, so with this in mind, I'll leave it at all roles for now, and I'll go on the search button. Right, so we have, do you see we have 2 entries here? Well, we have many entries for Alfred and Annette Guillemay, and that's because they had many kids who got married and blah, blah, blah. All right, first of all, you have the date, the type, so the type of record you're looking at, marriage, baptism, or burial. In Quebec, it was always these 3, baptism, marriage, and burial. Now, baptism does, in the act, you will see what day the person was born. It is indicated this morning, last night, 3 days ago. Same thing for the burial. You will have the date of death, yes, basically. And for marriage, well, it's a marriage. So the date, the type, the parish, but the first part is the actual town. And then in parentheses, you will have the parish. So we see the first entry doesn't have a parish. That's kind of weird. We will see why. And you see that the role is subject. So I know I'm looking at a marriage record from there. And then you have the age and the people. All right, so I'm going to click on this. Now, this brings up a card, which is taken, basically, it's some information taken from the actual act. Now, the card doesn't reveal very much. It just says this is a marriage between Alfred Boutillier and Annette Guillemay that happened on the 19th of October, 1926. We see their age. We see that it was at Église Saint-Jean-Baptiste, so Saint-Jean-Baptiste Church in Saint-Jean-Baptiste Parish. And then there's a matricule. Now, you see here, there's a link to click to see the act. I just want to point out that this is when your counter starts for images, right? So the moment you click on one, that's one. All right, so this brings up a bulletin, well, it's a wedding or marriage statistic bulletin, something like that. I don't know how to translate this exactly. I know that these exist. They exist. I don't know what year they started doing those on top of the Marriage Act, but this is actually done. I know I have one. My parents have one as well, and so did my grandparents apparently. Now, normally, you know, I might have overlooked this document, but I've learned my lesson. Never overlook any document because they can reveal new information. This one, for instance, had information I had seen nowhere else. Nowhere. Anyway, I just want to skip a few things and we'll get to it. So you see the first, and the information at the beginning are to do with the, I always say the broom. I mean the groom. So the groom, so Boutillier, Alfred, so we see it's abbreviated, but cultivateur, so he was a farmer. Different times he was a merchant as well, but célibataire, he was not a widower, he was single when he got married, 28 years old, Roman Catholic, living in blah blah blah, Roxton Falls, having been born in Saint-Valérien. He was born in Saint-Valérien, and then his father's name was Thomas, his first name, and this gives the information of where the father was born, so that's a very interesting piece of information. So the father was born in Sainte-Cécile de Milton, okay? And then the name of the mother was Denise Couture, and the groom knew how to read and write. Now, same thing for the spouse, you have the same types of information, but this is where it gets interesting for me. It's an information I didn't have, is that, let's see if I can make this bigger, yes. So the name of the father was François, so he was François Guillemay, and I see that the location of his birth was Brandon, Vermont. So he was born in the US, he was American. Why? Basically because his parents happened to be traveling or working in the US at that time when he was born. He also has a sister who's born in the US. The other brothers and sisters are born in Quebec. So, you know, these people used to cross a frontier very, very frequently. They would go back and forth. Typically, they would come back to Quebec and participate in the farm work for other people. They would be hired help. And then after that was done, they would go back to the States and work. In their cases, they were working in cotton mills in different places. We'll talk about that. So here we go. So this information it's crucial to have found the place of birth of the father, because if I want to go up one generation, that might become a very interesting information. So Brandon, Vermont, right? Great. So, and then other information, blah, blah, blah. And okay, so that's great. That's a document I would keep. I would just basically save it for reference. All right, so I continue now. I'm going backwards. Okay, here we go. So next one, I see it's exactly the same information, except that I have the parish this time. And so I'm suspecting this might have to do with the actual Marriage Act. So if I click on it, I come to this card and I have a little bit more information, but not that much more. I have the marriage, Roxton Falls, Saint-Jean-Baptiste, 19th of October, 1926, Alfred Boutillier. Oh, the I is not here, so it would actually be pronounced Alfred Boutillier at this point. And then Annette Guillemin, see the writing is, the spelling is different. Boutillier was the father of the groom, Guillemin was the father of the bride. We're not learning very much here. And I see that the document is not available. Why is a document not available? Basically because of I believe it's 100-year, the 100-year rule, where a document cannot be put online or linked online this way before 100 years has passed. So 1926, we're almost there, 2 years from now. So what can I do? Is there any way around that? Can I get to the document? Yes, you can. And so I will close this page and I will now go back to the search tools and I will look for the Drouin Collection Records here. And I will go to Quebec, which is the province, Fond Drouin, and look for Roxton Falls because I know the marriage happened in Roxton Falls. So Roxton Falls right here. And you see here Saint-Jean-Baptiste Parish, that's the one I want. And we have to do many clicks, but we'll get there. And we know it's in the 1900s. Oops, sorry, not at all. It's the 1920s, and it's 1926. So right here. Now, I know I've clicked this link before, but this is not the actual act. They're married in October, so I'm thinking about the end of the year. There's not that many records here that year, so I'm thinking I'll click this here and see if that's the one. If it's not, you can move previous, next, you know, until you find the one you're looking for. However, every page counts, right? So I happen to be on the exact page I'm looking for. I'm just going to make it a little bigger and center this a little if I can. There we go. So we read here that Boutillier A and Guillemin A, you see it's identified as marriage number 10 that year. Everything is numbered, and so if I go up a bit, you'll see here this is the 57th birth. So quite a few births. So marriage number 10, and I won't translate. By the way, in another video, I'll give you templates, if you will, of the acts, the words you would normally find in an act, in a baptism act, marriage act, burial act, so that you get accustomed to the way it should look, and so you can also identify, if you don't speak French very much, if you can, so that you can identify what are the words that are just words and words that are actual names, so that you can, get what you're looking for, basically. So here it reads basically the 19th of October. I have trouble translating when I'm reading French. Okay, so 19th of October, 1926. Under the dispense, I think that's how you say it, I'm not sure, under the dispense of 2 bans of marriage, and with the publication of the 3rd ban, between Albert, oh, okay, all of a sudden he's Albert, great, Albert Boutillier, de cette paroisse, from this parish. He was a major, how do we say that, like adult, like was past the age of majority, so son of Feu. Feu means the person is deceased, so Feu Thomas Boutillier, his father was deceased. So we get the father's name here, Thomas Boutillier, and it continues on the other page. So let me get to the other page, just click on next, make it a little bigger, and here we have the end of the name, Boutillier, et de Denise Couture from this parish, and then finally Annette Guillemin, my grandmother from this parish. She's daughter of François Guillemin and Mélina Morel. So you see, you have the parents, and typically you'll have some people signing or not, depending if they could sign or not, if they knew how to read or write. But in this case, we have Annette Guillemin, my grandmother, who Alfred Albert Boutillier, both first name here, I guess it's an official document. And so Alfred Albert Boutillier, who also signed, Arthur Boutillier, who was his brother, and I know here this is Donat Boutillier. Might not seem very obvious, but I know he had a brother, Donat, D-O-N-A-T, so I know that's what it is. So Donat Boutillier. So that's great, because you have signatures as well, which is also very nice to see. And it's very, very amazing to me to see my grandfather's handwriting, because mine looks like that, kind of. Okay, so we have the information we were looking for, even though the record was not yet 100 years old. This is long enough already. I encourage you to at least try the one day for $7 Canadian, and so which is really cheap, right? $5 American maybe. And then just look around and try to find the couples that you have already in your family tree that you know are French Canadian or suspect are French Canadian from their names. We'll talk about names again. Like I said, there are many videos. We're just only starting, but I'll give you a little bit of background on the names and things like that also as well. So that would be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you soon for another video. See you soon. Bye-bye.